Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are diving into one of the most essential concepts in Go, for loops. By the end of this video, you will understand how to use for loops in different ways, write clean and efficient loops, and avoid common beginner mistakes. So grab your editor and let's get started. Now, a for loop in Golang is the only loop construct in the language. Yes, there is no while loop or do while loops like other programming languages. But don't worry, the for loop is super flexible and can handle all looping scenarios. So let's start with the basic syntax. Let's create our file first, main.go. Good. Now, this is how we declare a very simple basic syntax for loop in Go. You start with for, then you do your initialization first. Over here. Then you add your condition. Then after your condition, then you do your post. Then inside it is where you write your code. So this is the very basic initialization, the very basic syntax for a for loop in Go. So the initialization sets up a counter, usually a variable like I, and the condition checked before each iteration. The loop stops if it's false, so that is the condition. And the post, whether increment or decrement, updates the counter after each iteration. So now let's see this in action. Good. Let's bring in our package and let's add our function. Okay, so inside our function, let's do our first for loop. So let's say for, and let's initialize I to be equal to 1. Okay, let's make it more readable. And let's add our condition. So our condition is for every I which is less than or equal to 5, we are posting that I should always increase. So we do I then plus plus. So this is first our initialization. We declare our variable, or we initiate this variable I to be 1. And the second part is our condition. So for every I which is less than or equal to 5, this is the iteration, the post that it should keep increasing. So our loop will run through and check the value for I. If it is 1, it will print it out, and then it will go again. If it is 2, 2 is less than or equal to 5, then it will print again until it gets to 5 before it stops. Exactly. So now inside our code here, we will print it out like this. Okay, and we say that number, then we bring in our I. As simple as that, right? Good. Okay, so now let's run our program to see. Great. So that is what we see here. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then when it gets to 5, it stops. So that's the very first basic for loop that we have created. And this is the very This is the classic way to loop through a sequence of numbers. Now let's take a look at for loop as a while loop. Now, what if you want to create a loop without an initialization or increment, just like a while loop in other languages? In Go, you simply drop the initialization and post statement. Now, let's look at that. Okay, so we first start with our declaration. We first start with our initialization I equal to 1 over here. Then we come and do the loop here for I, which is less than or equal to 5. Then we should print number I, and it should keep increasing till the condition I is less than or equal to 5 is met. So we add the increment over here, I plus plus. So this is for loop as a while loop. So let's run that to see exactly. Now we see it over here, as simple as that. Great. So this works like a while loop. It keeps running until I exceeds 5. And this makes the for loop incredibly flexible. Now, let's look at infinite loops. Sometimes you might need an infinite loop, like for listening to a server or waiting for an event. In Go, an infinite loop looks like this. Let's take a look at that one too. Inside our function, this is how an infinite loop looks like. With no initialization, we just go straight for, and we write our code, and we say, let's say server running. So with no condition, this loop will run forever or until you manually stop it. Now, use this carefully. Add a break statement if you want a way out. So this is an infinite loop. It will keep printing server running, server running, server running until you manually stop it. And the way out to break the statement is to manually add the code to break it. We will look at that. We will look at breaking and continuing loops. Now, you can control the flow of a loop using break and continue. Break stops the loop immediately. Continue skips the current iteration and jumps to the next one. Let's look at a typical example. Let's start with our loop and initialize our value here, I to be 1, and let's add our condition I for I less than or equal to 5. We should keep increasing the value for I. And inside our loop, we will add a condition that if I is equal to 3, we should print skipping 3. Then after that, we will add the continue. So don't forget, I said the continue skips the current iteration and jumps to the next one. So we add our continue over here. Then we will add another condition that if I is equal to 5, then we should print breaking at 5. Good. Now after that, we will add our break over here. So I said the break stops the loop immediately. Good. Now after that, then we print the value of I. So we print the value for I. So it's a number, then I. As simple as that. You see that? Good. So now we first initialize and we add our condition and the increment. So for I equal to 3, then it will print skipping 3. Then it will continue. So the continue will skip the current iteration and it will jump to the next one. And it will go to, if it gets to I equal to 5, then it will print breaking at 5. Then it will break. Then before we continue with the value of I, like that. So let's have a look at the console. Now we see it over here. So number 1, then it continue printing. I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2. Then when it gets to 3, then it will print skipping 3. Then it will continue. Number 4, then it will get to, when it gets to 5, then it will print breaking at 5, like that, and it continue. But when it gets to 5, the condition says that for if I is less than or equal to 5, so it will get, when it gets to 5, then it will automatically stops. So that is it, how we can add, break, and continue in our for loop. So this is a useful for filtering values or for stopping a loop early. So let's clear this. Okay, so we will first declare our variable numbers. For example, and you indicate that it is an array of integers. Then we will give the value for the values in the array: 10, let's say 10, let's say 20, let's say 30, 40, and 50, for example. Now let's write our loop over here. So we will loop I. So after the initialization, we say num equal to range of the array numbers that we have declared before. Then we will print the index of the value. You print the index of the value like this. Then we will print the value of the I and the num that we initialized. So we will print the index and the value of the I and the num. Good. So in this, looping through the array of the numbers that we have declared here, which we have already declared that it is integers, the 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Now in the loop, the range over here iterates over the elements and return both the index and the value. So the range over here will go into the array called the numbers. It will iterate over all the elements and return both the index that we have declared over here and the value as well. Are we seeing that over here? So as simple as that. So let's run our program and see. Good. Now we see it over here. Index 0, the value is 10. Index 1, the value is 20. And so on till it gets to the last index, which is the index 4. So in Go, the index of an array starts with 0. So as you see it over here, the value 10 here has an index of 0. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So the loop over here goes through those, it ranges through the values for the index, and for every index it will print the index. For every value it will print the index and the value as we have initiated over here, then it will print it out. So that is what we see it over here. Good. Now you can use underscore if you want to ignore the index. So let's look at that one briefly. Let's look at that one. We will use an underscore to ignore the index. So instead of doing for I, we will do for underscore. Then we will bring our comma, then the num, then we will do our range numbers. And inside the print, we will use print line instead. Then we will only print the num that we have declared over here, like that. And this will ignore the index. So let's look at it and see. Good, we see it over here. So it went straight and printed out only the values without the index. So using the underscore, it will ignore the index and it will only concentrate on the values, the 10, 20, 40, and 50, like that. Good. I hope this tutorial helped you master for loops in Golang. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future tutorials. If you have any question, drop them in the comments. I'm here to help you on your Golang journey. Thanks for watching, and let's see you in the next video.